r/askreddit. What is similar to finding out that Santa isn't real, but for adults? Retirement is not an age. It is a financial state. The sad reality of my late 50s life. Yup. It's not automatic. You gotta plan for it. But hey, now that I know, I can work towards it better. It takes a while to realize you no longer get 3 months off in the summer. Still mourning the loss. Bruh, what? School summer vacation in my country is like a month. When I was a kid, I assumed that all adults, and particularly those in positions of power, were intelligent, competent, rational, organized, sane and sensible. Boy, was I in for a shock. I had a high school teacher who liked to say that in the real world you're not going to be able to get away with slacking off and cutting corners like students do. Boy, was that a lie. The older I get, the more I realize nobody knows what the hell they're doing, some just hide that better than others. First clue for us should have been observing how our schools were ran as children. I just assumed once you got past school, life would be so much sensible and sane when you reached adulthood. 36-year-old me thinks school was there to condition us to be used to dealing with incompetent and irrational leadership now. Seems the further up the ladder you look, the less grounded they are in reality. Everywhere I've gone. Learning that Santa is real and you're him. Haha. I love this one. That the funny, interesting stories that celebrity guests tell on late night shows are actually rehearsed and planned ahead of time. Norm Macdonald has been on Conan, and Conan is clearly wanting to get Norm to talk about what they had planned. He even says, "I thought we talked behind stage about this great story you had." Instead, Norm just goes off on whatever comes to mind at the time. The whole thing is rehearsed. Reactions and whatnot, just like a choreography. I used to intern at one of these shows. I wouldn't say the guests rehearse the stories with the host, but the producers do pre-interviews with almost all guests, and if the guest doesn't go anywhere spontaneous, the on-air convo would match the pre-interview pretty closely. Even Graham Norton. Sometimes the way his guests react to having stories brought up, it looks like they're realizing this will be aired on TV for the first time. The strip dancer's pole spins, not her. Edit. Apparently not all of them do. Some are called static poles. Oh. Yes, there are both static poles and spinny poles. Performers usually have spinny poles. Static poles are for pole fitness. You can tell the difference by looking at the bottom of the pole if there's a dot. For the screws, that spins. Thank you for the cake day wishes. 3 I updoed every one of you. Some spin and some are static. There's usually a screw somewhere down the bottom that you can adjust to make it either. You can tell which if you pay attention to how the dancer moves. If she holds the same position and spins around really fast, seemingly effortlessly, it's spinning. If she has to maneuver her whole body to go around, it's probably static. I've been dancing primarily at a club with a static pole for 3 years, and doing tricks on spinning ones when you're not used to them moving is terrifying. Discovering that good friends you thought would always stick together drift apart over time, sometimes never to be heard from again. This one has been bothering me a lot lately. I have 2 high school friends who mean the world to me, and we used to always hang out over breaks we shared. Lately though, we've all drifted apart and not communicated as much because of our different worlds' fields of interests. On the bright side, my best friends from college repeatedly pester me every day to get a job in insert city so we can hang out every day. So there's that. Edit. I'll call her tomorrow. Thanks Reddit. One day will be the last time you hang out, and you won't know that until much later. Accepting that life isn't fair and that people often get ahead through deceit, corrupt bargains and backstabbing, oft-applied accents. Very good people. Shitty people often win. Yep. Bad wins because it doesn't care about following the rules, which makes the game infinitely easier. In my experience, evil usually gets the upper hand over good. Unless good is very, very careful. Dr. McCoy. A full-time job isn't 9-5. Commuting sucks, and usually lunch is off the clock too. That's why I skip lunch every day and just eat at my desk. Would much rather get home an hour early than waste time. Yup, I hate that I have to wake up like an hour and a half before my job starts just to get to work on time. Then I'm forced to take a 30-minute unpaid lunch. I'd rather just work through and leave earlier. Then I have to get shit done during the week like cleaning or cooking, and I end up with no time for myself except for the weekends, which I also have to do shit, and they feel so short anyways. All for a job I can probably finish in 3 days, but I have to pretend to work for another 2. Working 7:30 to 6:30. What a way to make a living. Barely getting by. It's all tacking and no jiving. How quickly time flies when you are an adult. It gets faster and faster the older you get too. Some professions die. Just because you were a good travel agent or fax repairman doesn't mean you can be one forever. I hope the whole influencer thing dies. When your parents tell you if you go to college and work hard, you'll be employed straight out of college, married by 25, kids by 30, and the company you work for will take good care of you for the rest of your life. In fairness, that was their reality growing up. The fact that they've never seen any reason to challenge or change their perceptions, despite the whole world changing, is the problem. Much easier to believe that young people these days are just lazy. UK adult here. You're not guaranteed a job on leaving uni with a degree. The council doesn't give you a house when you fill in a form. All over the world, living a healthy, risk-averse lifestyle doesn't mean you won't get a lifelong illness or terminal disease. As for your last point, I knew a guy who was super active playing tennis and ate a very healthy diet all the time. One day he went for a run and dropped dead. He was only 63. Net versus gross income. Cries New York State tears. Buying things because they're on sale doesn't actually save money. Flashbacks to my mom coming home from the store with the total amount of money saved memorized, and no idea how much she spent. Acne doesn't go away after teenage years. Oh hell yeah, just turned 27 and have a pizza chin right now. For me, it was finding out the cheapest studios in my area run for $1,300 a month and most don't even include utilities. It was also finding out working doesn't instantly mean you can survive on your own financially. I can't even imagine that. I get paid $11 an hour, bi-weekly thank God, for nearly full-time work to pay $540 a month, utilities included, for a 2-bedroom apartment with my wife who makes $9.25 but only works about 15 hours a week. I live within walking distance of my university. We live comfortably but sometimes we're stretched thin. $1,300 a month plus utilities? Man, I would be looking for any way out of that area if I could help it. Hopefully you find a reasonable solution. The number of people that are willing to or have cheated on their spouse. It wasn't an issue in my marriage, but since I've become single, my eyes have been opened. Yup, I don't get this either. I never will and never have cheated. If it gets to that point, it's time to end it. If it happens to me, that's the one thing that will make me just drop it all and walk out without a second glance. No forgiveness. But the cavalier way people act about it is staggering. Q in just a few weeks ago. Had a badass cruise with lots of cool cars going up and down the street we all live off of. Got out there with a few of the neighbors here and we cruised up and down the thing a bit, parked and hung out in one of the lots to watch for a while. One of these guys has a pretty knockout looking GF, who was busy working that weekend and not with us. He spots this other girl walking up and down the street. Swears she's hunting to get some and I'm going, or just minding her own damn business wanting to check out all the cars cruising and doesn't want some creepy ass motherfucker stalking her around like you got us doing now. Ends up following her and picking her up. I'm just shaking my head. Turns out her BF cheated on her, so she was indeed out looking about to get picked up by someone to reciprocate this wrong. They decide to ride to a bar first then get a room somewhere later and she even tells me come with us. I got an arsehole too, wow lol. No thanks. My girl would never suspect me of fucking around and she has no reason to, but have fun and call me when you're ready to hit up more of this cruise. I think the thing that got me the most was I get she was pissed off for being cheated on. But even knowing the guy that picked her up that day had a GF too, she was fine with perpetuating that act even though it would make this girl feel just as shitty as she was feeling then when she finds out her BF is fucking around. Just crazy to me. Of course, it's more his fault for fucking around. He picked her up all on his own motivation after all. But still. To my knowledge I haven't been cheated on yet, but I just wouldn't be able to deal with making someone else feel that shit. In my shoes I'd be thinking, fuck man, there's this dude out there who is with this girl and he's gonna be devastated when he finds out what she's out here doing with me. I can't have a part in this. No taken women for me. Or any other women for that matter while I'm in my current relationship. I don't want to be inflicting that on someone I love, either. Finding out how much health insurance costs. Even if you get it free through work, finding out how little health insurance covers. If I get hit by a bus, I suppose I'll get a few bucks from them. Other than that, I'm halfway through my professional career and they've never paid a dime for my medical expenses. Actually, that's not quite true. They cover getting an annual flu shot totally for free without too much hassle. Whoa. $10 K down, $20 saved. I pay something like $480 a month for my insurance. I take my kid to get a strep test and still have to pay the doctor $350. The fug? Price of cheese. And butter. Why the hell are those so expensive? That I thought I was so smart that I would be a millionaire by 30. Are you me? Lol. Seriously though, the more I grow up the more my priorities change. I don't care about being a millionaire anymore. I just want a simple happy life, which in some cases is more difficult than getting money. Realizing that it takes a lot more than academic competency to make it in the real world. I wasted my potential academically in high school, so I worked my ass off in college and got a 3.9 GPA in a useful major. Now my friends who were more focused on networking are in better positions than me, and those weak students with better work ethic focus than me are doing better at their jobs. No amount of academic competence is going to disguise your inability to focus or your underdeveloped social skills. This is a personal attack, isn't it? S. How did you deal with this realization? That company HR is there to look out for the company's interests, not yours. For example, if you have a problem with a co-worker that you take to HR, sometimes the best solution for the company is to get rid of you instead of the problem employee. I had a meeting with HR the other day, and as I was walking to the office I overheard two of them talking. An employee emailed asking for a copy of their job description. Simple enough, right? Nope. The debate on the topic was if they should inform that person's boss that their employee asked for it. Two major concerns. 1. What if their boss is having them do something that wasn't in their job description, and they want to use this information to get out of work too? If they are simply looking to update their resume, then they don't want that person's boss to be blindsided should they find a new job. Conclusion. Give them the job description, but inform their boss that they asked for it. The dinosaur bones in museums aren't real. Comma. Take that back right now. I just looked this up. That's understandable but really disappointing : finding out there isn't a perfect someone for everyone. And that everyone doesn't just get married and have kids. This is something I've finally come to grips with. I'm halfway through my life and I think I'm just okay alone. I really can't imagine anyone fitting into it. I've met some wonderful people, and of course, some downright twats, but nobody has filled the proper space. Maybe there just isn't a space to fill. Which is actually a comforting thought. The realization that who you know, what you know, in terms of employment. Students from better socioeconomic backgrounds will always have better prospects than those with no connections, no family support, no luxury of time, money to explore their options. Even if the poorer kids get better grades in university, they are less likely to end up in management positions than better off graduates with worse grades, from a recent study I now can't find. That when all is said and done, almost everything is decided by money. Realizing you put yourself into crippling debt to put yourself through college only to graduate and have to live with your parents because every job wants 5-year experience for an introductory position. Apply for those positions, man. HR frequently adds stuff like that to a job posting they know nothing about. Add keywords in your resume that could flag in their HR pre-scanning system. You may get yourself a few extra interviews. Contact your college, they should offer resume critiques, as well as interview training. It's hard work, but it will help land you a job to get you started. Learning the impact of your vote on a presidential election in a heavily red or blue state. When you begin to get bored of the hobbies you did as a child but can't get into any new ones. Sorry if anyone find this inappropriate, but I'm one of those guys who really thought that America was well removed from its racist past, and that a person like Donald Trump would go down in flames at the ballot box. To realize that I was so horribly wrong on both counts, I'm still in a state of shock. Finding out that sex is pretty much never as good, hot, romantic, physically comfortable as movies porn society will have you believe. It will still always be worth it. There is never a magical time when all the problems were solved, except maybe in hindsight. Most of your life will be spent working, and much of that work will be A, grueling, B, stressful, or C, boring. There's no magic bullet that guarantees you will avoid this. When you're unemployed, even though it is often a rough time, try to treasure the freedom. Life isn't an adventure story with you as the hero unless you are very lucky. You are as flawed and prone to poor decision making as everyone else. Your living spaces probably won't be as nice as what you see on TV. When practically any amount of alcohol will land you with a hangover in the morning. That school traffic doesn't stop, even though you've not been in years. I can't find the study now, but about 10 years ago I read one that showed American public opinion has next to no effect on American policy. It's a non-democracy that happens to have elections, like Iran or China. Realizing that comedian stories are often made up for the joke. Finding a girlfriend. That life isn't black and white. And then sometimes it can be. That all governments are corrupt, some more than others. All those radio shows where they call people at home or work, War of the Roses, etc., are completely fake. There are companies the radio stations use with actors that play the parts, or sometimes they use other non-on-air radio station employees, but it's never authentic. It would be way too unpredictable to call a real individual, and the real responses would be way more boring.